Right, question 1A from exercise 7.8, and the purpose of each of these videos is not just to take you through here is the way of solving it, but to look at how do we solve it so that when you're doing it by yourself, you can have confidence in trying that next step and not going, well, I don't know what to do next. Well, then we've missed the point. So we're given this. Now, at the moment, my page is quite blank, and that's an issue because on hand, I'm expecting you to have your, where is it? To have your identities ready. Here we go. Here's my version that I've written down. So we've got that on hand. Tan theta, sine theta over cos theta, sine squared theta plus cos squared theta equals 1. Those are your two fundamental trig identities. And before you even look at any of the questions, you write down these variations. You subtract sine squared and you subtract cos squared to give you the other two. Okay, so now that we've got those in hand, we're ready to tackle all our questions. Now, my recommendation is that at the beginning of each day or every time you start, you write down these two and write down the two variations. But don't do it for each question because you're going to refer back. But every day or every time you sit down, be it 4 hours later, just rewrite them so that you're in that nice habit. Okay, so you've got that down. Then we can look at our question and say 1 minus sine squared. No, that rings a bell. I'm sure I just wrote that. There I did. So you might think, well, when do I replace with things? When don't I? When do I do the left-hand side or the right-hand side? Here it's quite clear that we're going to need to simplify this left-hand side. And then it's going to miraculously come out to be 1. There's no ways we're going to manipulate 1 to turn it into all of this. Okay, so we've got this already jumps out. 1 minus sine squared theta. So I'm going to put that in because it just really jumps out that the left-hand side, let's tell anyone who's reading our work, including ourselves, that we're dealing with the left-hand side, and 1 minus sine squared theta, I'm going to replace with cos squared theta. Okay, now you've got this bracket. Remember, don't write equals 1. We do not know it equals 1 yet. We need to prove it. Okay, 1 plus tan squared theta. No, there's no identity that this magically turns into something else. But in general, not always going to be the case, but in general, if we see tan squared theta, then our tan squared theta, we're going to replace using tan theta equals sine theta over cos theta. So we're always going to replace, not always, but we're mostly going to replace tan with sine over cos. Now, if tan theta equals sine theta over cos theta, kind of stands to reason that if you square the left-hand side, you can square the right-hand side, and they should also be equal. Tan squared, tan theta all squared. Another way of writing that, the short way, is just to write the squared over there. And if you're squaring a fraction, then you just square numerator and denominator. So square the top, square the bottom, in other words. So tan squared theta, we're going to replace with sine squared theta over cos squared theta. As I said, our reasoning is that let's get everything to sines and coses because, look, things are probably going to cancel. Now from here you wonder, cool, that looks all well and good. This bit certainly looks a bit simpler. This bit actually looks a little bit more complicated. But we've got a cos squared theta and a cos squared theta. Now when I was doing this, I thought, well, there are two routes you could go down. The one route is you just multiply this into the brackets. We're not sure what to do, so we're going to say, let's just multiply this into the brackets. Cos squared theta times 1 is cos squared theta. And let's just get that a bit neater. Cos squared theta. Cos squared theta times this. You may jump to the next step, but I'm just going to show exactly what I'm doing. I'm going cos squared theta times sine squared theta over cos squared theta. If you're multiplying, it's like put it over 1. That times that is the top. 1 times cos squared theta is the denominator. Oh, cos squared theta, it's 1 term over 1 term, so we can cancel that. So we've got, that's equal to cos squared theta, we cancel that, plus sine squared theta, excuse my writing, cos sine squared theta, because those cancelled. there we know that that just equals 1. So that's, yeah, we got the right-hand side. Okay, so that would have been one way to do it. Unsure what to do, multiply into the brackets. The other way, or one of the other ways, because there are multiple ways to do these, so you say, I don't want to multiply in yet, so I'm going to leave my cos squared theta outside, and I'm going to change this to one fraction. So I'm going to put a lowest common denominator of cos squared theta. So this was 1 over 1, so I need to multiply it by cos squared theta and plus sine squared theta. So this bit in the bracket is just putting this over a common denominator. Okay, well, from there you might multiply in, or you might recognize, wait a second, cos squared theta plus sine squared theta, that's just 1. So we got cos squared theta times 1 over cos squared theta. Well, anything times its reciprocal, those are just going to cancel. You're left with 1. That's your right-hand side. So I'm purposely emphasizing this point because I think it's so crucial that, look, there were 2 different ways we went down. And you can, let me just scroll up so you can see that bit without my big head in the way. So we went down 2 different paths here, and even here we could have done 2 different things and cancelled those and then said that that's equal to 1. It really doesn't matter unless you find yourself taking 20 steps and you look over at your mate or one of these videos and it's done in 3 steps, then yes, definitely need to get a little bit quicker. But look, the steps in this case were the same. Maybe one method made more sense to you. Great stuff. So you thought, yeah, I like this idea. Just multiply in the brackets. Hey, those cancelled. Or, hey, I saw a fraction. I'm more comfortable putting it over a common denominator and going from there. Either way, look over at your mates, compare, and go, yeah, no, I back mine's much better than your one. Or go, now hang on a second. The way you did it looks interesting. Now, what did you do there? So, yeah, and obviously in this time that might involve taking photographs and things. Okay, so that's how we're going to run through them. On to the next question.